Welcome to the first of Mitch's models demonstration videos for weathering a building. This time I thought I'd try something a little bit different and give you some commentary on what I'm doing throughout the process. I'm in the process of making a sugar mill for my Queensland layout. And to make the sugar mill, I've taken some fairly standard Walthers buildings that I've basically just put together and painted to look the part. I took some photos of a sugar mill near Beenleigh in Queensland just to get some inspiration on what I wanted the mill to look like. The first thing I'm going to be doing is slightly fading the paintwork with a bit of grey pan pastel. I find this really looks quite good when it's all finished. The grey pan pastel does look a little bit thick at the moment, and it does detract from the base colour of the building, but as we add other layers of different colours of pan pastel, it will thin out. Also, when we finish at the very end, we'll spray the building in a dull coat, and this will help to even out the colours from the pan pastels as well. At the moment, you might have noticed I've also changed colour with my pan pastels. I'm using a bit of a darker grey, and I'm just going over the bin detail at the moment. This bin is like a hopper that will empty bulk sugar into waiting trains and wagons. This colour I find is really good for doing metal finishes, and it looks quite good on this kit as well. It also helps to hide some of the glue marks from when I put the kit together. This colour is also looking a bit bland, but it will change a bit too as we add other colours, like with the light grey. I've gone and changed colour again to use a sort of brown shade. It's a bit of an orangey brown, and it comes from a pan pastel set for dirt and rust. This is a really effective colour to use, and I tend to use a lot of it in my models. It's sort of like a cross between dirt and rust, and it's really good for a base layer if you're trying to build up those rust effects. Generally, when I'm using these rust tones, I'll try and keep in line with the lines of the model. These corrugations would generally be where rust and dirt would form and would stick in real life, so I try and keep everything moving in that direction. Sometimes I do go perpendicular, and I'm sure you'll have noticed this, but this is usually to scrub in the colour as I'm working. I generally just play it all by eye, but I have consulted my library and noticed things in the photos that I have taken to keep everything realistic. Sometimes I also use the brush in sort of like a stippling motion. I lightly stab the brush on the model with pan pastel, and this sort of helps keep the pan pastel in heavier amounts on the model surface. Sometimes pan pastel doesn't like to stick to the model, and it can take a little bit of extra effort to get it to stay where you want it. This sometimes results in going over the same spots a few times until you get the desired look. You can see at this point too that I'm sort of trying to pay attention more specifically on the model where rust and dirt would build up in real life. Things like joints in the metalwork and the edges of the corrugated iron. I've also changed colour again. I'm using a more vibrant rust tone. This is also part of the same dirt and rust set from Pan Pastels. It is honestly a really good set. As part of this, I'm using the lighter rust to sort of layer over the darker, more dirty sort of coloured brown that we used earlier on. This is a really great way to build up different rust effects and sort of get that aging to the model that we all desire. Don't be afraid to experiment with different brush sizes as well. I find that a larger brush is good for bigger areas, but if you want to do some more fine work, especially when adding little pockets of rust, then switch to a smaller brush if you wish. This way you can get into the smaller areas and work on some of those finer details. You can also see now that once we've sort of layered a few different colours, the original light grey has really toned down and everything's sort of blended a bit more together. This model's looking really good, and I think it's nearly finished for this stage of the weathering process. After I've completed all of the work with the pan pastels, I'll spray it with a dull coat. At the moment, I'm using a satin finish from Citadel. They're the company that makes Warhammer figurines. I find this product to be really good, as it helps to retain a lot of the colour that you've applied to the model. And there we have it. I'm pretty pleased with how this has turned out. I hope this has been a really helpful tutorial for anybody interested in models or weathering. Please make sure to like us on Facebook, and we'll see you all again next time.